today we're venturing into the area of our life plan and purpose, which is a big one for all of us. And even just thinking about it and reflecting on it ourselves after many, many years, decades, we've been devoting decades to all of this. We were in a process of self-discovery today. So it's a journey that continues. Anyhow, in the process of going through all of this and having our lives transformed, we'll talk more about this. We realized that all of our life centers around our purpose. In other words, life is drawing us towards it in different ways, and we'll talk about that too. It's also our most joyful and fulfilling life. And who wouldn't want that? So it's something that is well worth pursuing. We're very excited to talk about it and really happy to have you joining us. So this highlights a valuable point, I think, in exploring what it might be. And this is what we're going to do today from a spiritual perspective. It's been for us, when we started actually going more into our purpose, it completely transformed our lives in ways that we couldn't possibly have imagined. And I think both of us feel that life has been much richer and much more rewarding and much grander than we ever thought it could be. So this is the journey, wherever you are, that there's more of this waiting for you too.
It's just taking that first step, stepping into the unknown, allowing the uncertainty to suspend some of that, to dampen that down, and then to go forward step by step, a little bit boldly,
right?
Gathering some courage,
right?
Picking up energy along the way, and then backtracking with maybe blowback with some fears, but keep going.
Right. Yeah, and healing is part of it.
Yes, healing.
Yeah, which reminds me, before we begin, I want to take a moment for us to connect our energy and just slow down a little so we're more present and receptive. So we can start by just closing your eyes if you're in a safe place to do this, just for a moment, and focusing on your breath. This is a wonderful thing to do any time of day when you feel like you want to just return to your center. Just breathing, inviting all the love from the universe around you and breathing in more of that love and light. And just feeling yourself becoming more present in your chair, wherever you are, however you're sitting or resting. And open to this miraculous journey that we're on together. And we can stay awake and also relax. So you can open your eyes again, and we're just about ready to start. I also want, before we begin, really to welcome everyone who's with us live or later on. We're all here together, and those who are here live, I want to remind you to say hi. We really appreciate hearing from you, and let us know where you're from if you're new. We would love to know more about you. So to continue, I'd like to turn to you, Philip, and ask you to share a little bit about why this why this topic is important to you.
Yes, this has actually been one of our both Jane and myself, our life purpose is to learn life purpose and to teach it to people. So it's sort of in sync, and it's a complex subject, although a lot of it is hidden in plain sight. It's rather paradoxical. It's a journey to get there, and it's the destination. Like, you kind of think your purpose is the goal and the outcome, and to an extent it is, but the bigger meaning is the journey to get there and what you learn along the way, and some of the detours. And as we mentioned, healing is a part of it too, to get clear enough to overcome obstacles and fears to do what you love. A lot of it is interesting. It's kind of a strange planet we're on, where like doing what you love and enjoy is so challenging and difficult and strange and out of the norms when you think it's the most natural thing, which it is. That's the irony. So there's a lot of paradoxes involved with this. It's kind of like going to that apex, that top of the mountain, but it's not so much the top of the mountain. It's getting there. And while you're getting there, you're sort of in the energy of the top of the mountain. Again, sort of paradoxical, the journey along the way.
Right, right. And we created a formula for it a while back. Do you want to share the formula, Philip?
Yes, at a certain point, I kind of put some of these pieces together. Some of the discoveries, at least the way I often realize the sort of the meta knowledge, the way I've discovered some things is looking at different pieces of things and seeing how they relate to each other, like key pieces, and how they fit together. And so these are things that are out there. And when we wrote one of our first books, the Getting Through to Your Soul, the 4 keys to living your divine purpose, a couple decades ago now, this idea of living your divine purpose was very unusual. Divine purpose is a little unusual, that term, but purpose, life purpose, was extremely unusual at 20 years ago, although it's there in ancient religions and paths and following your Dharma and things and ancient wisdoms. But in current culture, it was like, what are we talking about? Now, luckily, there's a lot of morphic fields. There's a lot of references and people studying this and writing about it, so that it's easier to understand and access. But going back to this formula, which is still something I think it's unique to us that we found, and it's quite usable. Although
easy, it's fairly easy, actually.
Yeah, which is why we like it. It's easy and it puts things in place. We don't, since it's quote a formula, it's not like you follow this formula and presto, you're there. But it's a good reference point. It's a good starting point, and it can give you a sense if you're on the right track, or if you understand what we're talking about, the life purpose, which is your purpose of your life, which at a certain point you'd like to make a priority, or you're stuck in kind of distractions and autopilot and more superficial things. Right. So what is the life purpose formula? Ta-da. It's really 2 parts equaling your life purpose as a formula. It's what you're interested in and good at, your passions, things you enjoy. And that's one part. And the other part is how would you like to see the world become a better place? Now, there are many things probably most of us would like to see improved in the world, but there are certain highlights or certain energetic sparks based on really adjectives. I would like the world to be a more blank place, a more loving place, a more creative place, a more collaborative place. Those are words that are very inspirational for me. So if those words are inspirational for you, you might be part of your purpose. It might be something else, a more peaceful place, a kinder place. Use your adjective that motivates you. So take your talents and gifts. For me, coaching, healing, teaching, as it turned out, I really enjoy those things, making videos, writing articles and such, communicating. And we're going to talk about greatest lesson and greatest gift later on, what you're natural at, and making the world a more loving, creative, collaborative place. There you go. So what you're doing, does it fit? Does it align with that or not? And you pretty much know right away.
Right. And it is something that evolves. I think, as I suggested at the beginning, it continues to evolve. And I think depending on where we are in our lives, we may be just opening to what might be possible for us. To share a little bit of our story, years ago, I was an architect and Philip was an educator. And I see some people are joining us. It's Barbara Clark. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Babs.
Nice to see you. And thank you for joining us. And we did that, excuse me, for quite a few years before we started running out of steam. And for me, it was just like, it became so difficult for me to live my life. I had this feeling like my soul was dying. And it wasn't like from any religious anything that I had learned. It was just this deep feeling that I was losing my life force. And it is really, purpose is aliveness, when you come down to it. So with that, I left my architecture job fairly shortly after that, and we started looking for different ways to do things. And this is part of it. It's kind of like you have to jump out of that, jump over the fence onto your own journey, because society is not going to be teaching you how to do this. I see Sharon Williamson is here too. Love to you too. She sent us 3 hearts, one for each of us, including Bud. Anyhow, for me, what I actually started looking for was ways to heal myself, because I was in not in very good condition physically, and we were very spiritually oriented at that time too. We had been for years, actually. So we started taking healing courses, and actually we were, I think, synchronously led to some people who were spiritual teachers, and they helped us personally, and they also taught us techniques which we we were using, starting to think that maybe we would be teaching them after a while. So it wasn't like we aimed for that. It was like it kind of, life led us to it. And that evolved. We took Reiki, hypnotherapy, NLP, quite a few different things, and gradually built a personal practice, and reached a point, I think, where opening to our hearts, which was one of the basic things that we did, was recognizing the truth in our hearts rather than in our heads. And that's one step, I think, of moving out of society, opening to what was in our hearts. We realized that we also understood that love is the solution, actually, for all of society's ills, basically. And that became a big part of our mission. And that happened over a period of probably more than 5 years. It took more than 5 years before we got to that point. And there are more things too that were involved, but and there's Nikki. Hi, Nikki. She said she had a hard time finding us. Well, I'm glad you found us. Anyhow, it's been a wonderful journey ever since. Did you want to say anything about the journey?
It has been a lot of ups and downs. I was a school teacher educator for many years. And that was something of a placeholder, although I enjoyed it, and it sort of fulfilled my life with children, hundreds of thousands of children, although we're not parents, Jane or myself, that we didn't choose that route. But I had a lot of connection with children, and that was interesting. And I learned a lot and grew a lot from it, but it really wasn't, I know, my deepest passion. I was waiting to go deeper into that. But really, in the meantime, I was, because we were studying, as Jane was saying, holistic hypnotherapy and NLP and other modalities of healing and coaching, and started teaching this, having individual clients and teaching along the way. And eventually Jane left her job as an architect, and eventually I did as a school teacher educator, and we're full-time in the coaching and healing and teaching and training, which we've done ever since and have enjoyed it and continue to do so. And that's our purpose. And it's just, makes sense. Is this aligned with what I enjoy, what I feel is helpful and productive? If it is, it's also going to help you be healthier and make you live longer. There are now studies on this. It's out there enough. So there's actually research studies where people's health goes up, their longevity goes up. And it makes sense, because if you're excited and your body's feeling good and comfortable and has energy, you're going to feel better. And if you're looking forward to things, you're going to want to live longer. If you're just puttering around and not doing anything, or distracted or waylaid into addictions and so forth, that's not going to be very productive or healthy, of course. So life purpose is a real benefit. It's a cure-all. It's a destination. It's a destiny, and much more.
Right. Yeah. And I think the point about aliveness is an important one. If you're not sure where you're going, one way to begin is just to start doing more of the things that make you feel alive. And of course, I was a good example of that. I was not feeling at all alive. And then I started studying, like, I think we met the spiritual teachers, and then we took Reiki shortly after that. And I just enjoyed Reiki so much. And I remember thinking, well, I'm never going to be any good at this, but I'm just loving it, so I'll just keep doing it. And then I kept doing it and realized after a while, well, gee, actually, I can do this. And that was part of it for me too, is recognizing that I had a certain idea of what was possible for me. And what we're doing now, none of that would have made sense when we first were looking for a deeper purpose for our lives. So if you're not sure what it is, just start doing things that you really love doing that make you feel alive and see where that takes you. Because your life is leading you too. You know, we all come here with a plan. Our souls have a plan that they developed before we were born, and there are all these angels and guides kind of trying to keep us on on course
Yeah.
with that. And if we're like, when I was feeling like my soul was dying, the message there is you're on the wrong track. You're clearly on the wrong track, and you have to change your life, which fortunately I did, not recognizing anything about having a life plan or any of that at the time. But
Yeah.
it was something, if you're open to it and you keep following that path of aliveness, I think that you'll find your way there. And heart, open to the truth in your heart. The thing that actually happened initially that was such a big change for me was we learned a process we call soul centering. And maybe Philip's going to do the meditation today. You can include a little of that in the meditation too, just connecting with your heart for the truth rather than your head, as I mentioned before, because it is there. And when you do that, also you'll get a different sense of who you are if you ask from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Reminds me of, if you follow your life purpose, Dr. Seuss says, oh, the places you will go.
Right. Yes, that makes sense.
Amazing places, unexpected. And again, remember I said about how the creative process, the way I understand it, the way I've done a lot of my creations, I've written newsletters now for about over 20 years, like, and where do these subjects come from? Oh, the places you will go finding your life purpose, they just come to me very easily and naturally. And I'm sure many people who are creative understand what I'm saying. And if you're not feeling you're creative, you are. And this is awakening.
Right.
And what I'm about to say is this sort of creative formula. We talked about a life purpose formula, is these key words that we're sharing with you if you bring them into your heart. And that's one of the key words that Jane said, opening your heart. And that will start to resonate not only in your left brain as a word, but a meaning in your heart and your emotions. And that's a key one. And we mentioned aliveness and opening. Those are key things to just keep focusing on being alive. Does this make me feel alive? Does this open me up? I mean, obviously you want to feel open to the things that are healthy and useful, not open to the things that are not destructive. So open to the positive, constructive, heartfelt things.
Right. Yeah. And another part of that is it may be more than one thing. There
Yes.
probably is more than one thing. Well, we have more than one role just with Awakenings Institute. I think if you really came down to it, teaching and writing and working with people personally. And in addition to that, I'm also artistic. So I love doing artistic things. I think we both enjoy cooking. So there are other things around it that round out your life too. If maybe you enjoy playing, well, Philip enjoys tennis. There are the things you do for relaxation, for learning, for balancing, and those all become integral parts of it, although they may not be the main element of your purpose.
Right. Yeah. So just to review, find your passions, find how you want to improve the world, follow step by step, start to address healings and blocks and resistances. We're going to do a little meditation that will help you in just a minute too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suggested also the value of connecting with your heart to get a different sense of yourself. And I think that's very important, probably for most everybody. I know years ago, before all of this really started, I I didn't think I mattered. I didn't think anything I did mattered. I didn't really feel that I had all that much value. I I remember thinking when I reflected on myself that I was deeply flawed. Like many people, I had a difficult childhood. And this, I'll talk a little more about this also in a couple minutes, that we have lessons that lead us to our purpose too. But the point I wanted to make here is that if you look into your heart and start listening to the angels and guides and beings of light who are up there to guide you, and just your soul, what your soul understands, you're a magnificent person. You're uniquely special. And this is what you're looking for, is what is it that is uniquely special about you? And that contribution does make a difference. It does matter. I think what I recognized in the end or at some point was however we conduct our lives, it's our vote for what we want to see in society. So if we're if we're just unconscious and kind of allowing life to kind of blow us in one direction or another all the time, we're not able to do that, to really vote for what we want to create in the world.
Mm-hmm. Help the
But we
world.
can, yeah. Like
Well, we're helping ourselves. Yeah.
We're here today we're making a difference. Connecting with love and light is great for your own health, for your spirit, for so many things. And it's also the best thing for the world. So that's an example of something where it's good for you personally and it's good for the whole.
Mm-hmm. And another way to understand this is the idea of the signal from the noise. What is the signal? What is the noise? The stuff that's putting you down, although you can't just wave a magic wand, there's some things you have to do to disburden yourself from that, remove it, is really the noise. It's not who you really are, as Jane was saying. The signal is your soul's calling you for your life path, your purpose, which comes from your soul's plan, even prior to incarnation, and the greater you, the greater collective soul who you are, even on a vaster level, which has a bigger impact even still. So that's the signal. Is that a signal or is that noise?
You feel it in your heart.
And your heart is the receptor.
Yeah.
And your brain will then help you out to figure things out in support of your heart, not the other way around, trying to figure things out mentally. Without your heart, you need your heart to open, and then you can open your mind.
Yeah. And it's a combination, as we suggested in the beginning, of you finding your purpose and your purpose finding you. One of the things that we learned, and this was a little later, is an idea. It's called greatest lesson and greatest gift. That for each of us, there is a theme, you could say, one area energetically that is our focus. And I'll go into this a little bit, just very, very briefly in a minute. And it's holistic. The journey is built into us energetically. So those areas that we came to clear as part of our life plan, the blocks that we came to clear, actually play a role in the opening that occurs as we become more connected to a purposeful life of really living in harmony with our soul's plan. And I just want to go through this very, very briefly. We're going to refer you to a place where you can find out more about it too. And I think it's a really great thing to do. So there is one of the 7 chakras. There are 7 major energy centers, which I'm assuming most of you are aware of, excuse me, in the body, starting at the base of the spine and up to the crown of the head, and there are more. There's Karen Gibbons is here. Welcome, Karen. Anyhow, one of those 7 chakras is like a theme that is an indicator of your greatest lesson and greatest gift. And you could say it's similar to the idea that is often heard in coaching circles, your mess is your message, which is a very simple way of saying it. Whatever it is that is your biggest area of learning in your life. Also, as you learn, if you learn about that and clear the blocks, then you open more to your gifts. And I'll share mine just very quickly because it's a pretty clear story. I was raised in an alcoholic home, and it was very belligerent and loud. My father was an alcoholic, and I had an older brother who was also very big, and they teamed up against me and my mother and me. We were smaller and quieter, and I became very, very quiet and shy by the time I was an adult. And actually, it's interesting, I'm having a froggy throat. My lessening gift is in my throat. Your throat is expression, that chakra. So it was my lessening gift was about how to open my expression and to be able to use it as a key to my life purpose, which is interesting that I've moved into a role of communicating with people really individually and through writing and through this kind of thing and through a lot of different trainings that we do. So going through the 7 chakras very quickly, the base is about physical survival. So it might be related, that might be part of it, or also I think just sensitivity to physical things, like a doctor might have that focus because there's a tremendous sensitivity to the body. The second one is the navel chakra, which is about sexuality and nurturing. So it could be anything in that area. The third one is your power center and your solar plexus. And again, it could be abuse of power or feeling disempowered, which is very common for women who have been we've been abused over the centuries, and men too, some men too. And it could be either or. It could be either one. And then the heart, it's love and relationships. The throat, expression and creativity. The third eye, vision. So people who are very visionary. And I think we have all met people like that who just have such broad visions of life, and it's kind of astounding how amazing that is. That could be their gift. And then the crown is truth, our truth and wisdom, and it's as with the third chakra, it's mental, it's higher mental level. So it could be any of those areas, and some people are just in that stage of actually healing, or may not even have recognized that they need healing yet. So it may not have occurred for them yet. And if you're just getting started, you might be looking at that. That might be a good indicator for you. And then as you move forward, it's the way I see it is it's like a thread that is always there. We go through a lot of different areas, but that thread is always there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can summarize like that life purpose formula, this greatest lesson, greatest gift, a lot of what's going on with you for your whole lifetime by knowing what this is and identifying your greatest lesson and gift. So it is a gift, but at the same time, it can be your biggest challenge, as Jane was saying, and as expressing ourselves. And I was a school teacher, and that was about communication, but I had some challenges to learn there too on how to communicate better too and be a better listener and such. Mm-hmm. Which is part of communicating is listening.
Mm-hmm. And just as another example, we had one student we have a 1-year training program on holistic coaching and healing. And one of our students, she was in an abusive relationship. And she was able to get out of that. And then she started a practice on helping people who had she called it narcissistic. She was in a narcissistic relationship. So people who were dealing with narcissism, and she's been very successful. And it's something that I'm not sure if if she chose it as much as it chose her. It probably, like I said before, it's probably a combination. We're moving in the direction actually and being guided from above in the direction of where our soul wanted us to go. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we also realize, well, gee, I know a lot about this, and I would really love to be able to share what I have come to understand with other people. So, Philip, does it feel like it's time for the meditation?
It does. It feels like it's time, a special meditation time. I'm calling this
Put
the
Buddy down. There you go.
life purpose transformational breath meditation, life purpose transformative breath meditation. So we're going to use our breath to help us realize our purpose and exhale, release what we don't need that might be in our way. So it could be helpful. And I also, as a note, I know some people have discovered their purpose who are hearing this, and this is a way of becoming clearer and going deeper in it. We have a whole coaching program coming up that can make you help you go very deep into it. So it's discovering it and then living it is really the big thing. And it may take you a certain number of years to get to this point where you discover your purpose. But once you do, you realize how important it is, and everything has been preparing you for this more conscious living and optimizing your skills and gifts and interests to help the world.
Mm-hmm. And being extremely happy and joyful.
Yeah, why not? And then we'll include that in the meditation coming up.
We can be joyful too
while you're at it, and
right.
while we're at it together here. So let's be at it and let's relax. And if you want, you can close your eyes if you're in a comfortable, safe place to do that, or not. You just can let your body relax, because as your body relaxes, it helps you slow down. It helps your brain waves, the slower, more receptive, healing, and meditative brain waves, the deeper, slower waves, they become like waves of energy that drift over your whole body. And you start to notice your breathing as you breathe in calmly, some breath in through your nose, and slowly exhaling, releasing what you no longer need. Good. And with every breath in, you take in more of yourself. And every exhale, you release things that are not you, that you may have picked up along the way as you breathe that out. And as you continue to breathe, you become a little lighter with every breath in through the nose, and relaxing a little more, and exhaling, letting go a little more. And your breath is a wonderful tool built in to every second of life, and you can use that a little more right now, breathing in pure, clear energy through the nose, exhaling slowly, easily, relaxing, letting go. Good. And since we are helping gather energy and momentum for our purpose, realizing it, we're starting to breathe in, thinking of some of those gifts, of things we enjoy. We're breathing in something we enjoy doing. And we're exhaling, letting go of something we don't like, something obligation, duty. Just breathe that out for a moment. Breathe in a wonderful gift, something you enjoy, something you're good at. And then you breathe out something you dislike doing. Okay, so you're breathing in more of your wonderful gifts and interests, and breathing out. Now you're breathing in more aliveness, energy that's alive and energizing, breathing it in, feeling more alive. And breathing out any stuckness or stagnation. Breathing in that aliveness, and breathing out that stuck stagnation, clearing it out, feeling good, getting rid of that. Now breathing in your openness, breathing and opening to wonderful things, and breathing out fears and doubts. Breathing in openness, and breathing out fears and stuckness. Breathing in more trust, and breathing out resistances. Breathing in more trusting the universe and divine order, and breathing out resistances. Breathing in more confidence, feeling more confidence, and knowing that you have the support. Breathing it in and breathing out procrastination and resistance. breathing in more inspiration, things that inspiring you, the God and bliss, breathing it in, going higher and lighter, and breathing out any perfectionism and worries and doubts, letting them go, breathing in, knowing your purpose is in place. You're going to your purpose. You're living your purpose. Your purpose is the journey. Your purpose is the destination. The purpose is the apex, the final arrival, and yet you are arriving every moment and every breath you take. You're there now, exactly where you are and where you're going as it unfolds in perfect order in divine harmony, step by step, moment by moment. Every breath you take, inhaling all the wonders of you and your purpose and what you can do in helping yourself and the world, and exhaling, releasing all the stuff you no longer need. Enjoying that for a moment, knowing it's with you. It can integrate and go further. And I'll count up from 1 to 5, taking us back from this life purpose integration transformation. 1, coming back. 2, using this experience any way you want. 3, remembering what you want and removing what you don't want. 4, ready to open your eyes. 5, opening your eyes, refreshed, alert, back where you are, more on track, more on purpose, more of you here now going forward into your purpose.
Thank you, Philip. That was wonderful. I after a while, I had this image, and it felt to me like I was on the highway to heaven, and there was this beautiful, bright, golden light ahead of me, and just clouds, and just really beautiful, beautiful scene. But he's moving around here, and it just felt great. I felt some of the things I felt about the journey is, one is that it's important to realize this whole idea that we have to be busy all the time. That's part of the mass consciousness. And I think it's really hard to break that habit. But for many of us, we're just not built to be running around all the time. And I'm like that. I know people have also mentioned to me who were working all the full-time jobs for years and years, and stopped, and they realized, well, gee, I still feel like I have to push myself as if I'm working 9 to 5. And I can even remember that, thinking I had to prove that I still somehow my achievements in a day were worthy, of a kind of similar to a 9 to 5 job or plus. Many people work more than 9 to 5. There's that part, just relaxing into it, and then trusting in the divine to provide is another one. Just opening fully to the abundance of the universe and recognizing that you're moving in a different direction that's guided by the divine in terms of achieving abundance. We've been living in this way for decades, as we've mentioned, and it's always worked for us. It's always worked, and we're very grateful.
Yeah, it's fortunate. We have, shall we kind of tell people how to go forward with all this now?
Well, let's focus a little bit more on love and light.
Okay.
This is after the meditation. We usually just focus a little bit on the love and the light that we're feeling now after the talk and the meditation, and this is really what it's about. For some people, their main purpose may be just emanating love and light. It's not like it has to be something monumental. You don't have to have a healing center, or if you want, you can, or what we're doing, you don't have to feel like you need to change the world. You can feel, well, I'm just an emissary of love and light, and everything I do is taking me in that direction. And wherever you are, if you have a job, wherever you're working, you are an emissary of love and light if you choose to be. You can think, well, I don't really want this job. Well, they need people who are emanating love and light there. I remember thinking that when after I left my full-time job as an architect, I went back sometimes as a consultant, and I felt, even though it was not something that was meaningful to me ultimately, by being there, if I was promoting love and light, then that was a contribution. And we need that everywhere. We need it on Facebook. I know some people say, well, I don't want to be on Facebook, and that's fine. But Facebook needs love and light, just like everything else. Oh, bud. Yes, he's so happy. He loves our meditations. So those were a couple of things that I reflected on. And I think that just going into those meditative spaces and breathing in more of what we want, and then releasing, and in that becoming more aware of what we need to release, that's good. It's never that there's something wrong with us. It's always that we're misunderstanding if we think that we're not quite where we want to be yet, because we're in a perfect place for our next steps. And the world does need us, all of us.
Right.
I often get out, very often get out my planet at this time. Because you can just imagine also wrapping the planet with love. Yes, Buddy says, I'll take the love. You can wrap me with love. And we do. Yes, we do. Buddy was abused too, poor baby. Anyhow, just imagine that we're together creating a more loving world. And as each of us becomes brighter and we become more numerous, then we're making a bigger contribution to the future of humanity. Any thoughts on that, Philip?
Well, I would second that. The more you're living your life purpose, you're doing what you're here to do, plus you enjoy it. And, are you going to make a bigger difference in things that you're good at, that you enjoy, that come easy to you, that are attractive to you, that attract others to you who are the right people? Or just stick with past programming? Well, you don't understand. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have all these obligations. Yes, we do. And yes, you do have to be responsible, of course. And people have a lot going on with families and children and work and things. And that is demanding. Yes. And we acknowledge that. But you just have to figure out a step by step, and it will show the way. It will. And look for support. Most people who are metaphysical are very lone rangers. They say, I'm helping other people. They're very good at helping other people. They're very loving and kind, but they often neglect themselves and get overwhelmed and burnt out. And that's why just even coming to the show here and being with the show would be a way of connecting with like-minded people. And there are other ways to do that too, of course. But it needs to be a conscious, active decision as part of your purpose to support yourself and other people, to be supported, to find people who support you too.
Yeah. Barbara Clark has an interesting question here. She says, wondering what chakra spreading joy and consciousness would be related to, specifically letting go of control and allowing spirit and life to flow. And what occurred to me actually is it might be a combination, like the heart. Of course, the heart is very heartwarming. And there's also the soul star, the next chakra above the head, which is really you could say, if you're going from the base chakra, so you go physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, this is a spiritual bridge. The throat is the higher physical, higher emotional, higher mental, higher spiritual. It is like looking more at a planetary level. I think that might be, it's like the higher frequency of the heart, you could say, if that makes sense. That's what I would say. It's like we open to understanding things at a personal level first, and then more kind of societally, and then on a planetary level, I would say that then you're actually maybe up, you're up in the higher chakras. What do you think, Philip?
Well, I think that's a good point. Like the eighth chakra being the higher self version of you would be also part of when you're really in sync with your purpose and life plan. So that would let things flow through you. That makes sense. In the question, she said, letting go of control, that's often, not always, but often a third chakra, which is about power and empowerment. So if we have a lot of power, empowerment, people controlling us controlling other people, that might be, especially these things seem to be recurring. That's why greatest lesson, greatest gift. Like I continually have partners, children, parents, workers, bosses, and stuff that I either feel like I'm either trying to control, they're trying to control me, their power struggles. So that might be, that's a characteristic of the third chakra. But like a lot of this, you'd want to look at it, do some meditations. There's a few other details that we teach too, that going kind of deeper into it to maybe get a little more information. But those are some things to consider.
Yeah, that's a good point. And of course, it's not always just one thing.
Right.
In fact, whatever is happening in one energy center, it also, there's something related to it on the other levels. In other words, like if you have a lot of fear, you'll be experiencing in some way, a lack of empowerment, the mental level on the third chakra, and you'll be experiencing a limited perspective on yourself too, in your heart. And it continues up. And when we can open to love, for instance, instead of fear, you experience something different as an emotion, joy, bliss, happiness. And you experience in the third chakra a different experience too. So it also, because everything is connected, everything within us is connected too. So it's beautiful. Thank you, Barbara. That's a great question. And there are different aspects to it. Like if we want to change our lives, if we want to lead a more soulful life, it's going to affect our emotions, our beliefs, our sense of self, the way we communicate. It's going to, our vision, everything is going to be affected by it, all levels. And we're going to be guided more from above too. So yeah, it's a beautiful journey. I think the longer we live and continue to go into this, the more I just am in awe of the beauty of the journey. The things, our lives have gone in such miraculous directions, and it's been so wonderful ever since we jumped over the fence and actually started to live life in the way that we really felt was harmonious with who we were.
Living life on your own terms.
Right. It's been an amazing journey. And
without controlling things.
Right. Well, in a way, it's interesting. Some would contrast the idea of control with command. Like you want to be in command of your life, of what your intentions are, but doesn't mean you can control what's going to happen. Like the Ukraine war, I think all of us, we want to have that change, but just wanting it to change doesn't mean that we can control what's happening there. Yep. But we can contribute love to the world, and I think that does help.
Taking charge of your life, doing what you can, which includes sending out and living in a more loving way.
Right. Rather than feeling, well, I can't, nothing I do is going to make a difference. That isn't right. That isn't actually true. I don't believe that at all.
When you're on purpose, you're in the flow, you're in the zone, you're
right.
making a difference.
Yeah. Well, and I think as long as we're alive, there's a reason our soul is keeping us here. So it's something to consider. And if you're wondering what that is, just reflect in your heart and journal. Journal from that perspective. It's very interesting. I started doing automatic writing, and I still actually, now I type or I dictate into Microsoft Word because I find that to be the fastest thing. But I still do that. I just allow whatever is coming in from that perspective, from that loving, heartfelt perspective. I allow that to flow through me onto paper or onto Microsoft Word. Some people, they journal from the perspective of all their greatest fears, and just, it's kind of like a downward spiral. That's not at all what we're suggesting. That's why we're the circle of love and light. So would you like to tell Philip, would you like to tell everyone a little more about how they can find out about their greatest lesson and gift and what we're doing with Awakenings
Right.
Institute
We have
right now?
a new updated article post on our website, our very extensive website, which has a lot of resources, free, and trainings there too. It's a tiny URL, a shortened URL to get there, tinyurl.com/life-lesson, tinyurl.com/life-lesson will get you to that new article. And if you're interested in really going deeper and deep diving with all this, we have a coaching healing program coming up at this time, depending on where you are in time watching this, non-locally or locally. And that's a training, a deeper training. It's a 4-month training, part of a 1-year program on life purpose, discovering and living it, and learning a lot of the tools that we've been sharing here, more in depth and hands-on,
And more tools.
and mastering. Yeah, this is just the beginning, sort of the tip of it, of what you can learn. And we wanted to introduce some very usable things today that can make a difference.
Right.
And to get to the coaching program, it's tinyurl.com/HOL coach, tinyurl.com/HOL coach.
And that's all in one whole
Yeah,
HOL code.
okay.
Okay.
Tiny, yeah.
There's
So
no
that'll
dash
get
or
you there.
anything. Okay.
So you can find out, there's a lot to describe that very in-depth, unique program that's quite transformational for life purpose discovering and living it at a deep level with the spiritual community, taking it with the spiritual community of wonderful people too.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. Okay, thank you. I also wanted to mention that Philip and I just completed an ebook called The Solution. And the subtitle is Make a Difference and Change the World with the Power of Love, which goes into more depth on our understanding of why it is that love is a solution and why love is so important. We wrote this book as a gift to the world, actually wanting to get this message out to as many people as possible. And it's free. There's no advertising of anything. In fact, it has its own website, and it doesn't even refer to our website. It's just The Solution. So you can get to that. Let me see it. You go getthesolution.org, and you can read a little more about it there. And there's a link. It opens up the ebook, and you can keep it for yourself. You can send anybody there. And if you're guided to support this mission, consider sending out that message to people regularly, not just one tomorrow or something and then never again, but maybe every week. Think of somebody who might benefit from the message, because love also is healing. It enhances life. It actually extends life, whereas fear and stress and all those things shorten life. And it's great for everybody in the world. So to me, it's like the obvious thing. And we appreciate everybody who is supporting this mission. We know there are people all around the world who are speaking the same language. So we really appreciate and honor that for sure. So Nikki says, can you post those URLs at the bottom? My mind can't get them registered. Well, the other one, can you put that one in, getthesolution.org? Yeah, and if you just can share that link with people, it's, like I said, it's completely free. There's no advertising, nothing. We're not asking for anything. This is really, we wrote it because there's so much division in the world now. And especially with it being before the election, we figured, well, this is a good time to get it out there. If it can help some people, that would be wonderful. Maybe change a few people from being so hateful. It does actually. In addition, it has 3 ways of that you can prove that love is the solution, and it also has real strategies for opening more to love.
It's also very short and easy to read. It's a very small little booklet.
Right, and it's designed for just to be available, so it's not hard. It's not esoteric or anything. It's just very easy and I think life enhancing. So we have that. You can also find out more about the circle at circleofloveandlight.org. And if you want to support the circle, we really appreciate you being with us. You can like our page, which is facebook.com/awakeningscircle. You can share this video with your friends if you're on Facebook, or it's also, we have a channel on YouTube. And you can invite your friends to join you in the circle. I know that there's some friends here today, so that's really wonderful too. The final thing that we do every time is send that love and light, the collective love and light from today forward into the coming week. This is something you can send, joy and bliss, whatever you want, miracles, magic. Just send it all through the next week and have a wonderful week. We love you. Bye-bye.